There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start the afternoon general session, SCN2A genetics, autism, and eyes. First, we have a family story. So important to remind everyone why we're all here. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Jacqueline Didon to talk about her daughter, Emily, and her journey with SCN2A.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline, and I'm M's mom. And this is our SCN2A story. Okay. Let me tell you about, oops, it went too far. Let me tell you about my sweet girl. Emily is 7 years old, and she's a beautiful, sassy, loving little warrior princess and the strongest little human I've ever known. Emily was conceived via IVF, and we did all the genetic testing possible to make sure we were having a healthy baby. We didn't care if she was a boy or a girl, we just wanted her to be healthy. She was born at 34 weeks, and for the first 12 hours, all was right in our world. She wasn't on any oxygen, and she was drinking from a bottle. But at 12 hours old, she started having seizures. The NICU team wasn't even sure they were seizures. They just knew that something wasn't right. Her little body would stiffen, and she would turn gray and blue, and then just go completely limp and stop breathing. The nurses would have to use an ambu bag and oxygen to bring her back around. They started her on seizure medicines in Baton Rouge, but the episodes continued and became much more frequent. For the last couple of days we were there, they were bagging her every 2 to 3 hours around the clock. Our insurance finally approved a transfer to Texas Children's, and at 4 a.m. on a Thursday morning, she and I left on a plane with their transfer team, the Kangaroo Crew. When we arrived at Texas Children's, it was like an episode of Grey's Anatomy. There was a whole medical team that came rushing to meet us, and they immediately wanted to intubate her and give her loading doses of phenobarb and Keppra. I was so scared, so I called my husband, who was on his way there to meet us, and I said, "What do I do?" And he said, "That's why we brought her there. Let them help her." We spent 3.5 months in that level 4 NICU, and she had more genetic testing done, the whole exome sequencing. That's when we got our SCN2A diagnosis. They said that Emily was a de novo mutation, that it wasn't anything that was passed down from my husband or myself, and that they said it happened at time of conception, and that none of the genetic testing that we had done ahead of time would have shown that. We thought that having a diagnosis meant that we would have a cure, but that did not happen. The episodes continued. The NICU doctor, Dr. Davies, started talking to us about placing a trach in a G-tube. The trach was to see if the apnea was a central apnea or if it was caused by her seizures. And the G-tube was because she hadn't been able to eat by mouth after that first day. She'd had a NG tube since then. Again, I was so scared. I didn't want to let them make holes in my baby's perfectly formed little body. But after lots of tears, prayers, and conversations with our medical team, we decided to proceed with the surgery. It's been one of the best decisions we've ever made for her, and it's now become our safety net. At this time, I also gave my baby to God. I told him that I knew that she was his and that I would accept whatever his plan was for her and for our future. And she began to thrive. On July 26, we were transferred back to Baton Rouge for discharge planning to get set up with home health nursing and a DME company. On August 14th, we brought our sweet girl home for the very first time. I was scared to death all over again. There was no call button at the bedside and no medical team waiting to come running if she stopped breathing again. That was 7 years ago, and she's still breathing, y'all. She receives PT, speech, and OT weekly, and she has a vision instructor for her CVI. A couple of videos. There she goes. The second one is a more recent video than the first. She currently functions at the level of a 3 to 6 month old mentally. She's nonverbal, non-mobile, has CVI, temperature instability, dystonia, low heart rates, GI issues, precocious puberty, scoliosis, right hip subluxation, and she's currently on 4 seizure meds plus the ketogenic diet, and we still have seizures almost daily. She's had more ER visits and hospitalizations than we care to count, some for seizure clusters, some for pneumonia, one for cardiac arrest, and most recently for very low heart rates, like in the 20s. The scariest one by far was the cardiac arrest. She and I were home alone, and her heart rate dropped into the 40s, and her breathing became irregular. My mom walked in, so I took her in the bathroom when we changed her trach out in case she'd gotten plugged, but then she just stopped breathing. I called 911 and I started CPR. The airmed came and airlifted us to our local children's hospital, and after lots of interventions in the ER, at least 12 rounds of epi, they stabilized her and were bringing her up to the PICU. In the elevator, she coded again. They restarted CPR, but she wasn't responding. The doctor that we knew walked over to us and said, "This has been going on for about 3 hours now." They said, "We're going to do one more round of CPR, another 2 minutes, and then we'll let y'all have some time with her." I started calling out to her, just willing her to live. And all of a sudden I heard, "She's in VTAC. We have a shockable rhythm." She has no deficits from that time. And just 5 days later, we were transferred back home. We discharged home. The doctors there have no medical explanation as to why she's still here, but we know why. She's known there as the miracle baby. She has come so very far since that day. Sometimes I still grieve the life that I expected to live with her, but I've learned to appreciate each and every little inch stone that she achieves and celebrate all the healthy, happy times that we get to spend with her. She has a huge support system, and they love our girl, and they mean more to us than they will ever know. We have had a little confusion in the genetics department. Emily was first classified as gain of function. She was textbook gain of function. Her seizures started at only 12 hours old. They were very hard to control, and she has global developmental delays. So last year, we tried to participate in the clinical trial through Praxis for gain of function, but after studying her variant, they said that she was actually mixed function. We were a little confused, but said, well, maybe that's why some of the medicines that work for her don't typically work for gain of function kids. So I talked about it with Leah, and she said, oh, let's run it by somebody else. So another lab studied her variant and said that she was loss of function. This one kind of confused us with what we learned through here about gain of function, loss of function. So if there's anybody here that would like to help us get to the bottom of this, we really appreciate your input. You can get my contact info from Leah, or just feel free to come up to me during a break. I'd love to talk to you. And then lastly, the Families Foundation. It's been a true lifeline to help us navigate and endure this crazy life, to help us understand what Emily's going through, and to teach us how to advocate for treatments and a cure for this awful disease. So to each and every one of you out here today who's been working alongside us towards this same goal, we love you, we thank you, we appreciate you. That's it.